Hi, welcome to the Live, Love, Laugh Lives with Cheryl Chapman, where I'm interviewing employers, employees, enlightened souls and entrepreneurs who are sharing with us how they live their life, what they love, and along the way we might even have a laugh, who knows. Today I want to introduce you to somebody who 10 years ago, quite frankly, changed my life, and I've never forgiven him since. This is a man who, what can I say? He went to see a gentleman called Tony Robbins. You may know Tony Robbins in America. I'm so grateful that he travelled all that way, did all that work to help his wife at the time to be able to come back to the UK and bring us a little bit of a UK power breakthrough, personal development, taking it to the next level, walking on coals, breaking boards, all the things that people do to try and understand that their lives don't have to be confined to just eat, shitting and dying, quite frankly. I'm very grateful because he helped me to wake up from the matrix that I was in by asking me a question: if you were to die tomorrow, who would mourn your loss? And I remember at the time looking at the girl next to me and laughing and saying, I've got about 43 friends on Facebook, what do you reckon? And then he looked at me and he said, if that number is small, you led a life of small influence. This gentleman, Andy Harrington, has influenced many of thousands of people across the globe, international, the #1 public speaker and business creator, helping many entrepreneurs to get their dreams out onto a stage. And of course, that meant that he had to do a lot of work himself. And now he's, what can I say? He talks the truth. Sometimes it's a bit cutting, but sometimes you need to hear it. And because of that Tony Robbins experience and in bringing back this concept to the UK, he was able to create the Public Speakers University, the Professional Speakers Academy, and help people to stand all over the world on stages sharing their gifts, including myself, so I'm very grateful. However, in the meantime, he also helped to create 7 children. So when COVID hit, I want to know, as I introduce Andy Harrington, did you have a rest?
I think entrepreneurs don't typically rest. I don't have much to talk about now because you've actually told most of my story already now. So
let's talk about something else then, something different. So in COVID, obviously, here you are, international speaker, India. I think you did a crowd of 10,000 or something ridiculous, wasn't it? And I remember seeing the light, you know, the light in the lighter moment with 10,000 people following you. And then, like, you can't go out your house. I mean, what do you do as an international public speaker when the shit hits the fan?
Yeah, I think initially, you know, taking a rest, you know, and, literally having much more time with the family because, I think I worked out in one year, 2019, I think it was, was it 18, 19, who knows. Anyway, for 1 year I had 9 weekends off, I think. So, you know, there's a lot of travel, a lot of missing my family. So that's been very good. I think that the wealth, you know, inside my family, meaning, where's your wealth stored? Is it stored in your family, in your business? I think, I got to restore that part of wealth to the family. And I've really loved it, actually. So it's been very good from that perspective. But probably just recently, I've probably felt a little bit more like I missed being on stage and performing and doing the stuff that I have learned to do well. So yeah, that was a sort of initial response. And then obviously you need to run a business. So we changed to a more digital operation, like a lot of people have, so more virtual events and webinars, which is what we shifted to ultimately. And of course, what we've been doing is teaching other people how to do the same.
Yeah, I think there was a word, wasn't there, that sort of came out of COVID, which was this word pivot. And you help people to get their message out in a different way. What's the way that you've been helping them with, Andy?
Yeah, so that in essence, most people have got a good message if they can just formulate it. In essence, if you can create a automated presentation, whether you call it a webinar or a video sales letter or whatever, but if you can create an automated presentation that does the heavy lifting of getting someone from, in essence, mildly interested to more wildly interested, then that's a good thing. Because look, we all want to believe that, people will visit our website or, see a post or an advert on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram and instantly go, wow, this is the person for me, and reach out and inquire and pay. That's not going to happen. There's a huge gap between where a client is emotionally and in terms of the level of belief and readiness when they first see you or your content or materials versus where they need to get to in order to become a client. And all marketing is about bridging that gap. What most entrepreneurs or business people will do is bridge that gap in a way that means they are personally too much involved. They'll do it on a one-to-one basis straight away. They do it on a personal basis, which in essence is just instantly limits the business. The majority of people who are entrepreneurs, they will look to bridge the gap themselves. And proper, really clever, intelligent, and people who can scale a business will think, how do I bridge that in a way that it's not me? Right? And most people's tendency is jump in and I'll do the work, right? Whatever it takes, I'll do it. What a real person thinks is, okay, right, well, how do I get somebody else to do it? Or how do I do it once so I don't have to do it again? And that's what we're really doing with an automated video or webinar. You're really, in essence, you're captivate, you're putting, in essence, you or that bridge between where the client is and when we'll get to, you're essentially building that once and then leveraging it over and over again.
Yeah. And I know recently in a talk you were talking about how to use stories in that process as well. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs or business people generally are like, oh, I can't tell stories. You know, I'm working in the corporate business, can't tell a story, or trying to sell a product, not sort of bare my ass, if you like, for want of a better word. How do you encourage people to use stories in their presentations?
People use stories all the time, they just don't know they do. You think of the word history, well, his story. The last few letters spell the word story. So anytime you refer to the past, you're telling a story. In essence, you're recalling a life happening or event. It's just that the way most people do it, it's pretty dull, disinteresting and boring, or not strategically done in a way that gets the result. So, stories don't have to be designed just to be funny. Stories don't have to be designed just to be information bearing. They can be all those things at the same time. So when it comes to storytelling, you've got the first thing is like, what's the purpose of the story? What am I trying to do? Am I trying to entertain only? Or am I trying to educate? Am I engaging? But it can be all three of those. But ultimately, what's the story designed to do? At the end of the story, what do you want the person hearing or listening or watching that story to feel? And how is that story going to change their thinking? Because in essence, that's it. In essence, all good movies, stories, presentations, they should be designed to change thinking. And the reason why that's so important is because that is what people need, right? People get stuck because their thinking gets stuck. We call it a mindset, and their mind gets set in one way, which really means their results will always be the same. Now, everyone wants growth. Well, they should if they want to have a rich life, because I believe the secret of living is growing and giving. But you can't give if you don't grow, because your giving will eventually kind of run out and get a bit dry because you're not growing, so therefore you don't have much to give. So in order to grow, you've got to effectively learn more. And most people don't do that. They won't learn a new skill because they get stuck. But in essence, what you've got to do, your clients want the result, but they don't want to do it. Like, most people are more afraid of the solution than they are of the problem. So what that means effectively is that they want the result, but in essence, they don't want to go through whatever pain or effort or risk that it takes in order to get that result. So they'd rather stick with something safe. And there is the conundrum of life. You want this result over here, but to get to it, you've got to go on an adventure. So what you do instead is you go, well, I don't want to go on the adventure because it's scary, so I'll stick with safe. And then you stick with safe, and then you're bored. So you then need to, so you're stuck in this loop. The goal is to be adventurous. As always, have enough certainty about you that you can go on adventures. And what could be more adventurous than expanding your horizons and challenging yourself and doing something new? And that's what the world requires of every single living thing. Nothing. Just get used to the fact that life's freaking hard, and don't expect it to be anything other than hard. Life is incredibly challenging, not just for human beings, but every living being, everything on the planet is a struggle to survive, right? And human beings, we don't, most of us in the modern world, we don't have to worry about some of the things we used to worry about years ago, like getting food and stuff and shelter. Most of those things get provided, but you still need growth. You still need to expand. You still need adventure all the time, because it's what stimulates us. If you don't, you sit there, you get fat, you don't do stuff because there's no reason to do it. So for me, going back to, why story, which is your original question, why do people don't do it, is because it's outside their comfort zone to do so, and they want to play safe. They want to stick with the same old boring presentation, which is essentially tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them, which actually translates to tell them how you're going to bore them, and then tell them how you bored them. It's a classic presentation. Or, it gets to the slide where what a story should go to position why you care and what you do. And instead they just show a slide that says, this is the name of our company, this is how long we've been established, this is a list of our prestigious clients, this is the number of awards we've won. And ultimately, nobody really cares. Nobody actually cares whatsoever about that, because there's no, why would they care? So a story is what's right for that. Yeah.
And so you talked about challenges. So, what would you say have been, what would you say has been the biggest challenge in your business life?
Oh, well, I couldn't say there was the biggest one. We're constantly, always experiencing battles in business all the time, because nothing's ever a straight line. The 1 minute you're like, wow, we've got loads of cash, we're doing good. The next minute something happens and you haven't. And 1 minute you've got a great team, and the next minute some of your key people leave. 1 minute for some clients, you've got 1 or 2 great clients, and then they have a change in leadership, and suddenly you're out, you're not on the preferred supplier list anymore. So it's constant, it never ends. And again, you shouldn't ever believe for any moment that it should end. Just you've got I suppose one of the greatest personal development tools that's most overlooked is the power of questions. What questions do you ask yourself when those kind of things happen? Even today, just for us, we had something happen on Facebook, which meant one of our things got shut down, one of our groups. And you can say oh la la, and you try and fight it, but then you go you're fighting losing battles. Then so you say, okay, I wonder why this happened. What can I learn from this? What's the opportunity here? Yeah. And already, just on the drive up here today, I figured out this is a gift. Yeah. What a great opportunity, because I'm actually now going to do something that I wouldn't have done previously, but this is a much better way of doing things. And that's the key. You've got to have that mindset to constantly ask quality questions of yourself, better questions of yourself, so you find better answers. It's basically about having an opportunity mindset more than anything, as opposed to a why me, mindset. What happened to you because you did lose a business, didn't you? So how did you cope with losing the business back in the day? Well, I coped by running away originally. Yeah. Yeah, so I literally ran away to another country, for example. And not that I was running away from anybody, I was just running away from myself. Yeah. Just went to another country and just, chilled out and didn't do anything for about 18 months. Mm-hmm. And just got out of the game of being in a business. And I think I even thought that I would want to get back into business. At that point I was just checking out because I was, wounded. But can you say, no one ever don't follow an unscarred general into battle, right? So after a while, I think, you can have, again, you've got to have the mindset that, form is temporary, class is permanent. If you think you're very good at something, then you can mess it up. But you can't. Your value isn't measured by how much money you've got or how much success you have. It's measured by how valuable are you to other people. If money didn't exist, would other people still find you valuable? Right? Because if that's not the case, then your value is not built on anything intrinsic, because you can lose all your money, but you can't lose who you are. The richest person in the village is the person that's owed the most favours, because they've been serving everybody else in advance. That's what money is. That's what money is. Money is a way of measuring how much you've served in advance. How much of your ideas, products, services given in advance. And people pay you in advance for delivering that. So if money didn't exist, do people still need some? That's it. Being an entrepreneur is so hard because most people, being a business owner entrepreneur is so hard because most people can't even look after themselves. They haven't even got enough energy to look after themselves.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like, a lot of people find it hard just to take care of themselves, right? Taking care of their own energy, taking care of their own body, right? Taking care of their own physicality, taking care of their own mind. And you become a business owner, right? And now you've got to take care of a lot more than that. You've got to take care of your clients. You've got to take care of any people that work for your business. They all now look to you as the leader. Same when you have other families, it's the same thing, you know? Like, I grew up at age 29 when I suddenly realised, shit, it's not about me anymore. When I had my first child. It's like, now now you've got to step up, and there's a reason. So, but not everyone's cut out for it. Not everyone's cut out to do that. Not everyone's, and that's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone's cut out to have a business where you're going to take care of other people. It's just not your game. But you have to do that. It has to be about caring so much about something first, and then caring so much about the people around that you will have enough energy every single day to keep on doing that thing that's very hard. Because every day it's like climbing a mountain. And who would do that? Like, it's almost like being an athlete. It's freaking hard.
Like keeping going all the time. And do you still have moments of doubt, do you think?
Every day.
Yeah. Because there's like this big thing about, I've got imposter syndrome. That's what a lot of, clients say.
Never goes away.
Never goes away, yeah.
Yeah, why? I mean, like, you could ask almost everybody. Every successful person has their own shadow. They have their own darkness. They have their own doubts and worries, their own unworthiness. And anybody who doesn't is frankly probably someone you shouldn't get around, because they're probably some axe-wielding homicidal maniac. So, because they're just probably just as some, like, it's just all bravado. Everyone feels that. Well, I think so, based on my experience. I haven't come across some of the people that I know that I looked up to so much, I got to know them more, is like, yeah, just like me. Yeah, just like me.
And so you ran away, you licked your wounds, if you like, for want of a better word. And then, so what is your thing that you really believe in?
I think I believe in that everyone has the opportunity to become much, much more valuable if they'd only realise that they have a whole amazing story and value to give. And I kind of really thrive on finding people that are very talented but don't know it. I think that's what I find the most exciting is, I mean, I don't really know what talent is, but I know it when I see it. Does that make sense? Yeah. As in, I can't describe it to you now. Talent is indescribable because it's this combination of things. You might call it an X factor. It's something about that human being that is just remarkable, makes them stand out. And I live for finding and discovering those people, especially when they don't realise. And it's like, I'm really happy to lend you my beliefs about you until you don't need them anymore. Yeah. And that's something I think I thrive upon, is to find that. And in my area of expertise, of course, that's really geared around professional speaking. Finding someone with just charisma and confidence, but not in an arrogant confidence way, but just this real charisma. There's something about them that they spark, they light up, there's something about them. And I kind of find it interesting to dig into the story and find out where that comes from, And it's always a combination of, inspiration and desperation, but it's kind of interesting. I like developing that. Yeah. I like developing that person's story and seeing that person thrive and do well. Because I think with speaking as well, maybe it's true of other things too, but there's a rippling effect to that, because if you help that person, they're going to inspire so many other people as well. I think if you look in history about all the people that have stood out, not all, but many people have stood out, they are people who have spoken, they are people who've said things and orated or written and said something. Yeah. And it's like enshrined in history because they've said those powerful lines or said something or did something that changed the world.
Why do you do what you do?
I do it because my parents split up when I was 13 years old, and I can remember I was very close to my dad when we was younger, And then when my parents split up, my dad had to rebuild his life. And even though I was living with him, I didn't see him as much. He was busy rebuilding his life. So from sort of age 13 onwards, I spent a lot of time on my own, more time than I'd ever spent on my own. And that part of my character became overdeveloped. I think I was very extravagant and extroverted in the early part of my life. Some people even would have referred to me as being a bit loudmouth and a bit big-headed. But that all changed at that time. I was like, I became very reclusive and, spend lots of time talking and thinking to myself. And so I think now that part of me having been developed, I think I'm pursuing some way to ultimately bring that back full circle, if that makes sense. I'm constantly trying to find a way to reclaim him, the 13-year-old boy, which I do and have done, but it's constant. I don't want to, it's not like I bring him inside and then we're here together forever. It's like I constantly want to remind myself that he is there because he was lost and he didn't know what he wanted to do. So I think that's it. I think it's about constantly reclaiming the part of myself that was lost and lost his dad. And I think that's it. I think I become that dad for other people now. I think I become that, which is weird because it's odd, and probably you're the same, I don't know, but when I'm with a group of people, I always think I'm the youngest person there, and I suddenly realise actually you're not. Don't fool yourself. You're much older. But in my head, I'm still the young 13-year-old boy. Does it make sense? So I think it's that. Is it now? I think I find myself in more leadership positions and people looking up to me a little bit, and I think that's it. I think I try to take that role on board because in doing so, I get to reclaim and love him again.
Yeah, and obviously you have had 7 children, of course. So you nearly had your 7 aside, didn't you, at one stage? I think you were talking about that. Yes. And I remember you saying, what can I say? If I shoot for a goal, I don't miss. That's probably not for this interview. Becky would never forgive us, would she? But obviously you had Aston, who was stillborn, of course. And at that stage, was that probably one of the biggest personal setbacks that you've had? Is that a silly question?
Yeah, I like it a lot, honestly. It was very unique, painful experience. And also an experience also that I didn't share. I didn't just go through myself. It was a shared experience with Bex, obviously, my wife. So, and feeling her pain as much as feeling my own, it both doubles the pain and halves the pain, if that makes sense. Because when she's feeling really bad, I get to really feel for her. I mean, the sound she made when the doctor broke the news that Aston, although still inside of her, was now not, his heart wasn't beating. The noise that she made is not a noise I've heard another human being make before. I hope I don't have to hear it being made since. But at the same time, she also halved the pain because, when I was then having, going through my own thoughts and feelings about it and crying or whatever, spontaneously, which kind of just catches you, then we never spoke about this, but all we ever did was just hold each other. We didn't talk about it. It wasn't like we didn't want to talk about it. It was just like, well, there's no words. You don't have to speak about it. It was like we just held each other until the feelings subsided, and eventually those feelings, they're greater in between. I could get myself back to feeling that emotion again quite quickly if I wanted to, but I don't have to do that anymore, if that makes sense. And it's been a good experience for the younger 3 as well, because Hugo came afterwards, obviously, but the other 2 went through it a little. I mean, they were obviously very upset when we told them baby wasn't coming, but they got to bury him as well because we buried him in a natural burial site, and so we still see him and stuff. So, that death for them is something they understand a little bit earlier than some other children, perhaps. And I hope that will make them value life more, because the greatest invention of life is death.
Exactly. Yeah. There's kind of an end point, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember on that fateful day, getting that text from you which just said, Aston didn't make it, and I remember thinking, like, no, this isn't how this story ends. If we kind of talk about stories and how we're talking about stories now, but actually, you know, that's one of the reasons why I agree with you. You know, life is so short, so temporal, and you know, like, get on with it is one of the things, isn't it? Yeah. Through sharing the story of Aston and obviously the story of yourself, you know, that 13-year-old, that helps to inspire others. Obviously, you've got your other children still with you, of course. Aston's still with you in memory. I think your son's working with you as well. Well, I know he is, actually. So that's been a lovely another chapter to the story, really, isn't it? Because he's come on leaps and bounds. How does he help you and support you now?
Yeah, Josh, he's like me. Since he was 15, he's been working for us. And you know, he basically runs a lot of the business, but he's more technically astute than I am. So he runs, you know, understands Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all these ad platforms. You know, I'm obviously the guy that writes copy, so I can write the words, but then the tactical piece of how to use the software, that's kind of his game. So that's, you know, his skill that he's developed. But there's so many other skills. He's you know, he's 22 years old, but he lives as if he's like a 30-year-old. Like, I mean, at 22, I was just a complete idiot, basically. Between, you know, 22, I wouldn't, you know, be able to do what he does today. But yeah, he's great from that perspective. But they're all great, and it's so interesting that all your children, you know, grow up in the same environment, but they all uniquely are very independently different. And you know, you've been told that before, but then when you experience it, it's a different thing. And they're all very, very unique and different. And you know, it's not my place in the world to shelter them or to make them you know, not have a life of pain. They're all having their challenges independently and individually, and that's what's right, you know, because that's what shapes you to be. My guide, I'm just there to hopefully be someone they can talk to, guide to, and help them out to make better decisions as they need to. But there's going to be, you know,
some challenges.
Life's painful. Yeah. Get used to it.
And you're a granddad now, so sorry to just remind you of your age.
It's all right. I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's good. Yeah, he's good. Gemma's, yeah, she's a great mum. She's very, very, you know, motherly. It seems to have been really good for her as well. So yeah, she's doing great. Very proud of her.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing how you live your life, how you love. What makes you laugh?
Do you know, I really love laughing. I really do. Like, any chance I get to be the jester and play fun or just to laugh. And it's just good to be around people that are naturally funny. You know, I love camaraderie. You know, like I like, as you know, because
piss taking.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, exactly. I like making fun of people, with people, and I like that, you know, thrown back at me as well. And I like being quick-witted, so I like trying to find an angle that's funny. So my brain constantly I'm always on the edge of thinking of a funny comment to make. It's got me into trouble a few times, but you know, there's those moments where you just let go and you laugh and you can't stop. Those are really magic moments that I really love to live for. And again, people don't necessarily see that side of me potentially if I'm on stage sometimes, but the more you get to know me, or the more time you spend even in my company on stage, the more you'll see I look for that. I look for those funny opportunities because, you know, like, learning should be fun, but life should be fun, right? And I'm guilty as much as anybody of being way too serious. So it's good to have people around you who are, you know, people who live more for fun. And I think, you know, we can all learn something from that. We were born, our primary objective, you know, when you're younger, pretty much is to have fun. Yeah. So don't see why that has to necessarily change. So yeah, it's good that you have that included in your title. Yeah,
it is, yeah. And so we're going to say, life's too seriously. Don't take life too seriously. You don't get out alive. That's one of my sayings. I want to say thank you, Andy. Thank you for your story. Thank you for inspiring so many people. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you did for me. Helped me to facilitate that. And I'd just like to say to everybody, just remember to live, love and laugh every day. And we'll see you soon. Take care.